So we have some celery, sedano, which I think it's good for the broth and is good to like to make the just to fry a little bit at first. I use garlic. If you have onions, you can use onions. I'm using these guys. Carrots is good. This is a new thing that I learned recently. So orange carrots tend to be not the best ones in terms of how much they give you. Orange carrots are like a production of human beings. Carrots used to come as this color or lighter. So if you find carrots that are like of this color or white, those tend to be the best carrots to use for cooking. I use a little bit of tomato sauce, or if you have tomato paste, I have some tomato paste here. If you have tomato paste, that also works. But also you don't need to use tomato. A lot of people don't use tomato when they cook in pasta fagioli. So it really depends on you. If you have fresh tomatoes, you can even put like 1 or 2 pieces of fresh tomatoes. It's good if you have like chili flakes. I mean, I like it a little spicy personally. I only have this like powder chili. My favorite one would be a dry chili peppers, but any really works. A veggie bullion. This is the one that I'm gonna do is completely vegan, so I'm gonna use like a veggie bullion. But if you have like one of these guys, also works fine. Perfect. Yes, that one is great.
Also, why are you wearing an apron, an 8-ball apron?
I have an apron. I'm gonna wear an
Go
apron.
and put it on. Let's all put our aprons on. I'm gonna.
Okay. This is the only apron that I have, and I'm gonna be using this. I never actually used this apron, but yeah, my family is also online right now.
Ciao.
Ciao, hello.
Ciao. Ciao. Ciao, Riccardo. Ciao, Annalisa.
Hi, Lele. I'm here for a second, and I'm listening.
Cool. Everyone that's here listening, please. I'm going to mute everybody. Unmute yourself if you have questions. So, other things. Now, back to me. Pasta, in terms of pasta, whatever pasta you have is fine. So this pasta fagioli, and in New York, they like to call it pasta fazool, which is not really the way that we call it in Italy. So pasta fagioli, it's a poor pasta, it's poor people pasta. It's something that, it's a soup that you make you make a lot of it, and you can eat it for days. Sometimes I leave it in the pot, and I just keep like eating out of it and put some more water if it gets too dry. But you can put any sort of like leftover pasta that you might have. So right now I have a little bit of these, and I bought some more pasta, but you could do like even if you have other kind of pasta, you can mix them together. It doesn't really matter because it makes like a soup. So any pasta would work for it. And the first thing that we have to do is the soffritto. So I don't know if you can see any of my preps, but to do the soffritto, right now I'm gonna cut. I'm gonna cut a little bit of this. In the soffritto, I usually put the celery too, and I put the carrots also. Then you can start slowly add stuff as it goes, and then you put some water, but we'll do this step by step together. So now let's see. Take these away. I'll keep a compost just in case. So now I'll use some olive oil. This is just regular random olive oil from Trader Joe's. I use both onions, scallions in this case, and garlic. Some people don't like garlic necessarily. Some people don't like onions. Whatever people prefer, I like them both, so I put them both in there. The more flavor, the better. So then I'm gonna cut some of these guys. I already washed them. You should definitely wash them before. Some of them in there. I'm sure my mom will have comments on how I'm gonna be cooking these. So is my sister. I'm gonna put all of that in there. This is what it looks like for now. And then now we can start putting the carrots too in the sofrito. And so now we wait a little bit for these to go. There's a lot of stuff in there. I can see that my mom has some comments. I'm gonna ask. Che commenti c'hai, mamma? Dimmi.
No, dicevo che secondo me sono pezzi un po' grossi. Io l'avrei fatti leggermente.
Le carote o i sedani?
Il sedano.
Okay. So my mom suggested the celery should be a little bit smaller than I made it. So if you wanna follow the expert, you should follow the expert. I like to make a soup, almost like not really a minestrone, but I like to make it like, well, I'm also making a lot of it because I know that I'm gonna be eating a lot of it. Tauba, my partner, she loves it, so I know that once I do it, we want to keep it as long as we can. And the beans that I'm gonna make are beans that I prepared yesterday. They were dry beans that I had, so I have them these ready. If you have beans from cans, I will put them, they take like less time to cook, so put them a little bit later. These ones they tend to be a little more solid because they come from dry beans. So I can start putting them already. Now I'm gonna put actually first a little bit of chili, just because I like it a little bit spicy. The trick is to put a little bit at the time. But this is one trick that sometimes I mistake too, and it's if you put things a little bit at the time and then you keep adding to it, it's better because you know whether it's too salty. Like you can't go back if it's too salty, but you can always add salt. And so goes for chili. If you can't go back if it's too spicy, but you can always add chili as you go. I put a little bit of, I put the bullion actually, both the cube, and then I put a little bit of the other one later on. So I put the cube, I usually cut it in half just to get it more in there. I cut it into like 4 little cubes and put it in there. And you can see the sofrito is still there right now. Still working on it. One thing that it would be good if you have any spices now. If you have sage, you can put sage. If you have, I'm gonna put maybe a little bit of rosemary, and that I keep in the freezer. This is from a farm. I wash it, but I put a little stick of it just to give some extra flavor.
Lele.
Yes.
How long does it stay in the freezer like that?
The rosemary, a long time.
Okay.
hell of a long time. I put every spices in the freezer. I keep like a
Basilico pure.
yes, everything. It gets a little bit darker, but it works. You just wash it a little bit and then you can use it for a long time. Especially I tend to do it with fresh herbs. So if it's an herb that like I get it from a farm or something so that it doesn't go bad, I just keep in there as long as I can.
I found that I do that too, and if you dry the herbs really well before you put them in the jar in the freezer, then they don't clump together so easily. They stay separate, so they're easier to take out when you're cooking.
You're talking about the rosemary, right?
Yeah, rosemary, sage, parsley, all of them. If you dry the leaves really well before you put them away, it's easier than when you take them out.
Thank you so much.
I put mint in there too. I put fresh mint sometimes there too. And yeah, at least it stays. I mean, right now, these days, I'm putting everything in the freezer. Bananas, I get them, I cut them in little, like I peel them, cut them into pieces, and keep them there so I can use it to make like smoothies and stuff. I do them with as much stuff as I can right now. So I start putting the beans in already and mixing them with the sofrito that is going. I'm gonna try and move my computer again. And soon we're gonna start adding some water and the pasta. So now for the pasta, we can even start putting some tomato sauce if you want now. I put just really a little bit. You don't need to put too much because otherwise it's too red, let's say. But I put a little bit of tomato sauce just to give like some color and some extra flavor. Again, if I had fresh tomatoes, I would probably put fresh tomatoes, but it's really difficult to understand now when a tomato is fresh, especially in New York, who knows? So I put just a little bit of tomato sauce to like give, again, some color.
I have a question.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I'm using a tin of borlotti. Shall I drain the water and rinse them, or shall I use the water?
I would, but you don't need to rinse it. I would just get some of the water out because this becomes like a soup. You want some juice in it, and often the juice that's even in the tins tends to, I mean, obviously if it's organic it's better, but it tends to be a little bit of a juice that comes from the beans itself.
Okay, so I'll just drain them and then...
Yeah, just drain them, but yeah, and then add whatever is in there.
LELE, would now be a good time to put in the tomato paste as well?
Yeah, I just put the tomato sauce in there and the paste will be just as good to put in now, basically. Yeah, it's a good time. Ciao,
sorry,
Sammy.
I missed how much dado bouillon you put in.
Right now I put a whole one. I put a full one, a full square. But I'm gonna maybe add a little bit of this. I prefer not to use salt if I can. This one basically replaces salt in the end. But I put a whole one, and then if you need, you can add salt later on.
Okay, thanks.
So now I'm gonna start putting some water in there. And then I usually, at this point, wait a little bit. So this is how much water I put in there for now. At this point, I usually close it and wait a little bit for water to start boiling a little bit. And then at that point, I start putting pasta inside. You don't have to. You can even put pasta at this stage already because it's going to be cooked like a soup. So the pasta is not going to keep the al dente flavor of a regular pasta. Do you know? Ciao, Sami. And And for the pasta, one thing that's important to know, you don't have to put as much pasta as you would when you're cooking just a pasta with sauce. So you have to put less, because otherwise pasta will be sucking all the water. Otherwise it becomes like a lot of pasta and not as much of the rest. So I am somebody that for pasta tend to measure it with a plate usually. So if I were to cook a regular plate of pasta for 2 people, if I want to just do pasta and sauce for 2 people, I tend to usually do 2 plates of this amount of pasta. Oops. For 2 people, it would be like a couple of these plates and maybe a little bit more. But for pasta e fagioli, you don't need as much. You need a little bit less because there's everything else. There's the beans, there's everything else that you put in there. The carrots, everything is going to give flavor. Everything is going to give like all the rest of the things basically in there. So right now I'm going to put all the pasta. I'll show you. I'm making it as if I'm making it for 4 people. Because even though there's 2 of us, I want to keep more in the fridge. So I'm going to keep adding to it. So I'll show you now how much pasta I'm going to put for 4 people. So you have an idea. So, sorry, I'm having pasta falling everywhere. This is how much, this is as a dry pasta. This is how much I'm going to do for 4 people. Mom, do you think that's enough? I'll ask. Dici che è abbastanza? Troppa?
Secondo me sì.
Ok.
Secondo me è troppa, perché non è una pasta asciutta, è una minestra un po'.
Certo. So my mom thinks that this is a little too much even. So that said, I'll probably still make that amount. I just put more water so that it becomes for like maybe 5 or 6 portions in total. Let's put some more water here to boil. Now, how's everyone doing, by the way? Is everyone good? I'm glad to see that people are cooking also. Yes. Ciao, Luisa. Oh, you're writing it down. Good. All of these, by the way, will be on YouTube, so you can all look back at it if you're missing any of it. I'm recording as we speak it. And I think that, by the way, I'm going to do some ads for tomorrow. At the same time, there's going to be a basic flowers. Can people hear me? I hear like a weird sound. Is it? Here's good? Sounds good? Okay. Yeah, so tomorrow there's going to be like a basic flower learning. So somebody is going to read about flowers to everybody. So if anybody's interested, tune in at 1:30 tomorrow. So here the pasta starting, the water starts like boiling slowly. I think we want a little, maybe like a couple of more minutes. And then we'll add the pasta into it. This is usually something that doesn't take too long. And as I was saying, so if you were to use chickpeas, I will put more rosemary and less of everything else. I will keep it to like rosemary, maybe celery, but I wouldn't really put necessarily carrots. And if you didn't have pasta, for instance, this is something that goes a little bit outside of the structure. But if you didn't have pasta and let's say you only had farro, I would maybe use farro, could be okay with it. You just want to put a little bit less water and make it more into like a soup that's more dense. Also, in general, the more water you put, the more soupy it becomes. it really depends on how you prefer it. Some people prefer it more watery, and some people prefer it more dense. I think I'm in between. I think I like it kind of like halfway. Okay, here is starting to show you how it is right now and what I'm thinking as being like a good time to do it. So now it's not quite boiling, but it's making like the first like movements over there. So I think maybe actually I'm gonna wait another minute before putting the pasta in. If there's any questions at this stage, please. No questions, that's good.
Oh no, it's always me with the questions.
Go
Can
for
I
it.
add some salt?
Can you add some what?
Salt. Sale
Yeah.
grosso.
I think that like putting some salt is good. I again advise to just taste it as you're cooking, just because like you can never get the salt out. You can only keep adding. So just like I will be adding some salt as I go along, for sure.
Oh, it's not the same concept of when you make a pasta that you put the
No,
salt.
no. Don't put in the same way. Otherwise it gets, because you already put the bullion. So that's already basically acting like a salt, and you having all the spices and everything. But again, some people also like it saltier than others. So I think I would just like keep trying it. If I were you.
Too much chili.
Too much chili? You see? You needed to taste it before. I'm missing chili. One thing that's really missing here, I can't find dry chili like in Italy. Even in London, it was easier to find dry chili than it is in New York for some strange reason. So now I'm gonna start adding some of the pasta inside. I'll show you while I'm doing it. I hope I won't get. Start mixing. And I might be adding a little bit more water later on as the pasta grows, because the pasta will grow. So at this stage, I keep it closed a little bit longer, just so the water gets boiling a little bit more. But then, yeah, I'll probably be adding a tiny bit more of water to make it. I think that like I want it to feel soupy. I want some soup with it. But you see how like the tomato sauce pretty much just gave like a little bit of a color without being too red, basically. Just like it gives a little bit of like an addition of color to the whole soup. And usually now at this point, whenever the pasta at this stage, once the pasta feels ready, again, it doesn't have to be al dente. Actually, you want it a little bit more mushy. You wanted it a little bit more cooked than normal because it's a soup. Once the pasta is ready, it means that the soup is pretty much ready. So that's kind of the way of like counting when you think it's done. Let's see if I need some more. I think I need more salt, but I'm gonna put some more veggie bullion. This one, I like this one. There's a lot of like other kinds. There's a powder one that I've been using that feels a little bit too sweet for me. I'm putting this much, and it might be even too much. But I like salty things personally, so I like things to feel, yeah, I don't know, I'm more like I'm a salty person, more than sugary. Okay, I think that we might almost be, no, we have like 5 more minutes before the half an hour ends. And so pretty much I think at this point it's all a matter of waiting until the pasta feels good. And at that point, you're good to go. It's good. This is something that I said earlier. It's very good to wait for pasta fagioli. So as in tomorrow, this is going to taste even better to me personally. So it's good to like make more, because it's good once the soup like kind of, how do you say, stays firm, like a little bit, like kind of solidifies a little bit. It tastes better. Personally, to me, almost every pasta actually tastes better the day after. I like to refry a regular pasta if I can the day after with just olive oil and garlic. With these, I usually add a tiny bit of water, and then on the stove, just wait until it gets warmer, and then it's just better tomorrow somehow. I keep it out up to 3 days, even in the pan. I don't need to put it in the fridge. Just this is general thing. I never go sick from it, so I hope you won't either. But I think you can totally leave it out and it should be fine. And what else? I think it's just a matter of waiting now. Thank you all for like tuning in on these pasta fagioli, very basic pasta fagioli 101. I hope you'll all make great use of it. I feel like now a lot of people have beans at home, and that's kind of a good excuse to use beans. If people only have spaghetti or only long pasta, so that's short pasta, which is what I use, or long pasta, you can also use that. Just break them into small pieces, and that's just become a short pasta. So even if you have tagliatelle, this is a pasta that you can use with, like for pasta fagioli, you can use like pasta all'uovo, so egg pasta, and so even if you make your own pasta, you can use them for that. Or semolina, it would be a very good pasta to put with it. Or if you eat meat, you can put like maybe some more meat broth. It's not really something that I care to do. If you eat cheese, one thing that you could do, this is like a trick that we do in Italy. If you eat Parmigiano is good with it. Parmesan is good to grate on top of it afterwards. If you have more Parmesan, the regular ones, you can, my mom is showing something that I don't know what it is. Oh, the little pasta. This is the pasta that my mom is suggesting to use for it. But if you have Parmesan, the crust of the Parmesan, you can just cut it off, and you can use it. Yes, you can put a piece of that, Jules, in the soup as it's cooking, cleaning it, and then put it in the soup, and so it gets softer. It gives, yes, cut it in half. It gets softer, and at the end of it, you can eat that, and also gives flavor to the whole thing. Okay. Stay safe, everyone. I'll show you where we are for now, and then I'm gonna log off. This is where we are. It's very much boiling, and it's going. Okay. Signing off.
It tastes so good.
Bye, everyone. Be good.
Ciao. Ciao.
Right.
Ciao,
Stay in and be safe, everyone.
Ciao ciao.
Ciao a
Bye.
tutti.
Buon appetito.
Grazie.
Grazie.